What's up, guys? This is Ben, aka Joyful Savage, here to awaken some morality with you guys because Lord knows we need it. I just got home from my soccer game. It was an awesome game. Feeling good. Got some Billy Joel. Let's hear it. Alexa, volume 7. We didn't start the fire. Marilyn Monroe. We need more tunes from the 60s, 70s, 80s. That energy back. He's teaching a history lesson in this. Catch you in the right. Our vaccine. We got a new queen. We didn't start the fire. It's always been burning since the world's been turning. Some key insights for what we need to learn about here tonight, right now. Alexa, volume 3. Alright, so turn that back down a little bit. I want to do a little bit of a history lesson because a lot of us are just historically ignorant as fuck. And it's quite scary, the level of ignorance we have with the historicity of this nation and just how blind we are to some of our past truths of this nation, the principles on which it was founded upon, the great people who have lived and made this possible for us, and even like the understanding of the climate of the past times, how the original revolution happened, and then coming present day to what's happening now. Because we're in some dire straits, really, I'm going to be honest, with the level of stupidity we have in this nation. I can't put it into words. Like, I'm watching this videos from this dude Mark Dice here on YouTube, and he's talking about, or he's going on the street and he's interviewing people, and he's asking them, hey, would you be willing to get these Trump supporters that keep saying that maybe Biden stole the election? If they say that on the street, would you be willing to sign this petition so that we could just go and arrest them and throw them into a camp and have them think about what they've done? And people are like, yeah, sure, I get it, let's do it. Like, what? These are the type of anti-American sentiments that we have from people in this nation. They think it's okay that someone has a difference of opinion. Free speech, the First Amendment, remember that. And they could just go and take that away from them and throw them into a camp? There's people, many people, walking around on the streets like this, ignorant as fuck, dumb as fuck, and in a state of fear, and it's quite scary. I mean, I don't know if there's much we can do for these fucking idiots, but it's the state of the world that we're in, and it's kind of America's downfall as well, because America has the worst and it has the best. The people who founded this nation, one of these such people, if you don't know who this is, then you have problems. And you aren't really an American if you don't know who this man is. This man is Thomas Paine, and he's a personal hero of mine, a personal favorite. He wrote Common Sense in 1776, and he educated the masses of that day. And he educated some of the morons, some of the people that would have been saying, yeah, let's take away free speech, let's throw them in camps. He educated some of these people who weren't thinking clearly yet, because they were so in the milieu and minutia of the current king of that day, King George, and the British Crown, who controlled over them and kept their own freedom of speech limited. And now we're coming back to the same kind of situation, and it's a little bit scary because we have so many Americans, I have to do that in air quotes, because these people don't represent American values. And I can't call them Americans. I can't call them my fellow patriots if they're going to be willing to transgress the very First Amendment. Freedom of speech, and try and take that away from people. I think it's like a Lao Tzu quote, or I'm not sure, but basically you become a slave to whoever's opinion is the most powerful at that time. You want to take away the person's opinion for the moment, but guess what? The next moment it changes, and now you're a slave to it because you don't have a choice in changing it anymore. And a lot of people, unfortunately, as shallow as this water is to actually think through and just to do a little bit of a deep dive, even though the water is only like a few inches deep here to actually get to the truth, a lot of people, they apparently can't see it. And it's scary. Seriously. On a mass psychosis type level, it's scary. The amount of delusions of grandeur that we have coming from my fellow American citizens. And A lot of these people, you know, if we ask them history about America, they won't know anything. Like Mark Dice, he went and he was asking people about the Civil War, who fought in it. They're like, oh, I don't know, man. That's a good question. Oh my God, is this gonna be on camera? Oh, I feel like you're gonna make me look like an idiot. Like, these people don't even know. They don't even know who won the Civil War. They don't even know who was involved in the Civil War. And yet these people have the same amount of say as you or me or someone who's really educated and spent a lot of time learning the past history of this nation, reading some of the founding documents that this nation was founded on. The Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, amongst other things, that it should be absolute necessities and requirements for anyone to actually think that they should have a voice in this world. I forget who said it, but basically, everyone will have an opinion, but few will think. And that's kind of where we're at these days, is where we've elevated subjectivity, we've elevated people's feelings and making them feel good, and then we've demoted actual truths and objective principles and realities. We've lost the basis of which we do our reasoning from, and it's quite scary, I'm not gonna lie, again. So not to hound on this point, but I wrote a little list here, let me see. Yeah, so another thing, talking about historical ignorance, let's actually do some reading from some of these men who actually made this nation great. One of these such people is one that actually a lot of people like to try and talk shit on. And I have to call these people out immediately when you try and do this to my forefather here of this nation, my ancestor, who brought freedom to this earth for the first time in human history. Since the start of civilizations, it was written into paper that, hey, all men are created equal. They are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, and amongst them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And many people, they couldn't even tell you who wrote that. They couldn't even tell you what that means. And that's a problem. Talking about historical ignorance and then present day ignorance, so as to not repeat the past again. This man, Thomas Jefferson, American hero, one of the very first ones, brought liberty to this nation and opposed the tyrannical King George of England. Even in the midst of all these traitors, these people who wanted to stay loyal to King George. You know, it's a fun fact that less than 5% of the actual American revolutionists, less than 5% of the nation at the time actually fought against King George. The other 95%, I don't know what they're doing. They're sticking their thumb up their ass on their couches or what, watching the next Netflix season. But they weren't helping. Less than 5% actually took up arms. It was actually like 3% or something. They actually took up arms and fought against the tyrannical King George. Other of them, they're like, let's just keep King George. Oh, if we could just get rid of King George bad. The next guy can just come in and he'll do a better job. Not realizing that it's a system that's corrupted. It doesn't matter what idiot you put in there next. Whether it's King George's successor, which is his son, or the one after that. One happens to be good and then the next one happens to be bad and you're back in the same situation again. Alright, so we're going to read something from Thomas Jefferson. It says a lot of people think, oh, he was a racist slave owner. Ha ha ha. I'm so much morally superior than him. Ha ha ha. Look at me. 1, you're an idiot. 2, we're going to read this. From 1769. 1769, Thomas must have only been about 25 years old because he wasn't but 32 years old when he declared that all men are created equal in the Declaration of Independence. That was his homework in July of 1776. What were you doing when you were 32 years old? In 1769, I became a member of the legislature by the choice of the county in which I live, and so continued until it was closed by the Revolution. I made one effort in that body for the permission of the emancipation of slaves, translation, to let the slaves go free, which was rejected. And indeed, during the regal government, again, King George, England, the regal government, nothing liberal could expect success. Our minds were circumscribed within narrow limits, not thinking wide and horizontally with broad horizons. Our minds were circumscribed within narrow limits by an habitual belief that it was our duty to be subordinate to the mother country in all matters of government, to direct all our labors in the subservience to her interests. King George, yes, yes. And even to observe a bigoted intolerance for all religions but hers. So again, talking about King George and England, I forget the actual thing, whether it's some form of Catholicism or Christianity, but where they're supposed to be subservient. And yes, King George, please just be easy on us. Like you're trying to negotiate with a terrorist. Alexa, lower. We know how negotiating with terrorists works. It doesn't. The difficulties with our representatives were of habit and despair, not of reflection and conviction. So the other people amongst that were there with him, their problems were that they were just creatures of habit. And they just felt pessimistic. We can't do anything, whatever. It wasn't something of reflection. They're spending the time to learn, think, read, talk about it, inquire deeper, come to a better perspective, and conviction. Holding that belief of all men are created equal, all people are created equal, holding that belief deeply and acting upon it. They weren't doing that. Experience soon proved that they could bring their minds to rights on the first summons of their attention. But the King's Council, which acted as another house of legislature, held their places at will and were in the most humble obedience to that will. The governor, too, who had a negative on our laws, held by the same tenure and with still greater devotedness to it. And last of all, the royal negative closed the last door to every hope of amelioration. Amelioration means to make things better. So Thomas, young Thomas, only 25 years old, acting in the pursuit of freedom and liberty for all people, the emancipation of slaves, which had never been done before. Bear this in mind. There's but a small group of people on the planet at that time that was actually even thinking about having equality for all people. Every other place on the earth, there were slaves. Africa, Middle East, Asia, everywhere had slaves. That was just the norm. There wasn't but a small minority of great men, some great women, that came together and started thinking, hey, this is wrong. We need to change this. You know, as horrific as it is in present day, thinking, oh, ha, 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 look at me with my phone. How could they be so barbaric? Ha, ha, ha. I would never do something such like that. Yeah, well, put yourself back in that situation. Mr. iPhone, Mr. Samsung, see how you would do. What would you have done to stop that? You talk this great game now in 2021, oh, but what would you have actually done? Probably not shit. You would have been a loyalist to King George. Translation, their names, aka Tories. People who didn't stand up for anything. People who lacked courage. People who didn't even reflect on what they were doing. They were just cogs in the machine. Probably what you would be, being historically ignorant. Until you actually start learning some of the truths. And these are strong words, but I need to shoot them as hard as cannonballs so people can hear them. So that's what young Thomas was doing in the pursuit of liberty for all people. Seeing that he inherited this situation and he didn't like it and he's trying to change it, but he says basically that he's met with these layers of bureaucratic policies. The governor, this royal negative, that one, that one, that one, and he can't get through it because you don't ever vote your way to rights. That doesn't work. You think you can vote your way to rights? Then someone here, right now, come to me right now and tell me, when has that ever happened in history? I'll wait. No, you can't do it. You don't vote your way to rights. As Malcolm X said, you're a man, you go and you take them because they are yours. So, present day now, guys, seeing what we learned about this, we're seeing that there were great men in early America. There were anti-slavery, people who were pro-freedom and pro-America. Pro-America in the ideal sense of freedom, liberty, pursuit of happiness, having these rights be inalienable and not having them taken away by anybody. There were people like that, and most people didn't give a fuck. They were the ones watching the Netflix. They were the ones watching the Olympics on the live stream. Ha ha ha, I'm so much better than them. Not taking any action. Wanting to leave this duty and pass it on to their children. Tons of people like that. And now present day, we're faced with a similar situation, guys. Because now we're having talks of basically a segregated society again. Having the government use force on a portion of the population because they're not choosing to take the same medical treatment. Which, if you even think about it for 2 seconds, wait a second, is the medical treatment that you're getting, if it's safe and effective like you keep saying, then why are you worried about anyone else not taking it? Because you're already safe. Oh, and if it's not, then why do you need, then it's not safe and effective. Then what's the point anyway? So either way, like, what are you reasoning with? Are we reasoning from first principles again? Like some of the early America's founding fathers did? They're reasoning from first principles. Principles of objective morality, natural law, what is right, what is wrong. And if not, then what are you reasoning from? Because I see a lot of people reasoning from feelings. Oh, but it makes someone else feel good, ha! Dude, I don't care how they feel. I don't care what you want to pretend. Let's reason from what is objectively true, and then we'll go from there. How about that? So, present day, it's a little bit mind-blowing, but there's a lot of people amongst us that are actually supportive of this level of segregation. You know, Adolf Hitler, when he came into power in Germany, basically it was proposed or hypothesized that he burned down a building. He burned down this like parliament building, and then they were like, oh my God, this is chaos. And then he wrote basically declared a state of emergency and gave himself emergency powers to do whatever he wanted in the country. Sounds kind of familiar. And then he began to eliminate people who were dissenters, people who didn't agree with a certain ideology that he had, being a National Socialist ideology, and the Aryan race. So anyone who didn't agree with that, he began to eliminate, systematically take them off. And then from there, he began to take the Jews and he began to segregate them from society. He began to say, hey, they're diseases, they're dirty. We have to stay away from them. Everybody get away. And then he created a culture where they made it right to point at these people. And they even made it bad and wrong to condemn someone. Someone talking bad about Jews and you try and stop them, now you're the bad person. You can't stop someone when they're talking bad about Jews. Because that's what the culture Hitler created. Emphasis on culture. Yeah, the cult. And now we're seeing too many parallels happen in 2021 for me to be comfortable with. And too many people, like in the Mark Dice video, seeing too many people supportive of this pro-segregation, discrimination again, taking away of inalienable rights that are declared in our Declaration of Independence from 1776. And this not being okay with me, because those are anti-American sentiments and they cannot be tolerated in this society. We have our basics, objective principles, and we need to live in accordance with these. And if we don't understand them as a people, we need to update these and get a new translation so that it speaks in the same language as we're understanding now in that 2021 lingo. Because it's unacceptable the ways that these rights are being violated over and over and over again, and people just sitting back. I have the joke here that, you know, I'm in New Jersey, but might as well be New Germany. The number of Nazis that actually came over after World War II to New Jersey, in the thousands. The ideologies that we have in this place, disgusting. Anti-American sentiments. And I always wondered why I didn't really fit in, but now I get it. Things like this, you know, they're great litmus tests. 2020 and 2021. This is a great litmus test for people who are actually pro-freedom and democratic republic principles of inalienable rights. It's a great litmus test, and many people are failing them. Many people just get swept in by whatever movement it is. Ludwig von Mises, he said, and he was an Austrian economist, someone that you guys got to read into if you don't know him, but what he's saying is true. He's saying that most people, they don't have the clarity or the courage to resist a popular movement, no matter how pernicious or ill will it is. And it's quite scary because we're watching that take people up in the momentum of this storm. And a lot of people just going with it, condoning it or encouraging it even, which is even scarier. So, that's about all I want to say for this topic. Some historical spotlight from Truth of young Thomas Jefferson, and some of our past principles. We need to look at the future and the present day in the light of some of these great men that came before us, because too many of us are ignorant, and too many of us think that we're deserving and morally superior than these people when we pale in comparison. We are standing on the shoulders of giants. This is something Michael Knowles said, another good commentator out there. He said, you're standing on the shoulders of giants, but you think you're flying. You think you've done it all by yourself, but you haven't. You're standing on the shoulders of giants. People that came before us, that were absolute legends of what they contributed to this earth. And you look down on them and you spit in your ingratitude on them. Which is unacceptable and pathetic. You don't even you're not even owing them the gratitude or the respect to actually read any of their works. Just thinking you already know it because look how far I've come. Ha 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 ha. Look how far I've come. Ha ha ha. It's pathetic. So we need to actually get some historical truth and learn it before it's too late, because those who ignore history are going to be doomed to repeat it. And it looks like we're headed down that track with a lot of people in their ignorance. And I can't do nothing but just speak the truth, continue to learn my truth, and embody it and live it myself. But that's all I can do, and get more people on board with the truth, because it's no longer acceptable and no longer okay to pretend that we can be ignorant. To pretend that you can have your phone like this with instantaneous access to any information, anytime, anywhere, and you think that you can still be ignorant and be supportive of movements and ideas that transgress inalienable rights and natural law principles is unacceptable. Perhaps maybe in Germany we could kind of give them a pass because they're in the dark. You know, their press was controlled by Hitler when he came in, and he controlled it completely. They didn't have cell phones. They don't have a clue of what's happening in the outside world. So, you know, when they're going along with these movements, it seems like, and they're in dire straits, it seems like a good idea at the time. We don't have that excuse anymore, guys. We don't have that excuse anymore. Your ignorance is now your choice, and it's not okay anymore. You know, I'm big on these shirts and these people, but he was one such man who lived out the principles of this country. JFK said that we cannot afford to become a nation that's materially rich and spiritually impoverished. Yet many of us have in this nation. And it's a time to return to some of our classics. Thomas Jefferson, Declaration of Independence, Thomas Paine, JFK. We need to return back to these people and actually learn the truths about what they spoke and learn what it actually truly means to be an American. Because many of you guys, you're on some anti-American sentiments and it's not cool. Okay? Like it, comment, subscribe. I'm going to keep these videos going. And share it to some friends that you think could take some truth from the early Americas and the present day situation, because we need to return back to these ideals and start embodying them again and let these principles run free, unhinged, unleashed on this planet again in the spirit of divine truth and love. Okay? Because divine truth and love will conquer all. Alright? Peace out, guys.